Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2014 Chevy Sonic, we're going to be showing you how to install the Roadmaster towed vehicle battery charge line kit. But before we get into that, why don't we just take a minute and talk about why it's a good idea to use one of these. What a battery charge line kit is going to do is really simple. It's going to use some of the power from your motorhome 7-way, the auxiliary power, and send some of that amperage back here to your vehicle's battery. And what that's going to do is keep the battery topped off and charged up. That way it doesn't get depleted, because what can happen when you're flat towing, a lot of times, you know, your supplemental braking system and some other components at times it uses your battery power, right? And so when you're going on long trips, it's constantly stealing a little bit of power over and over again. And then you get to where you're going, the battery can be dead, and that's a huge pain, right? Because then you got to jump it or charge it, whatever the case may be. So having this in here is going to give you that peace of mind knowing, you know, whenever you're going down the road and you're ready to disconnect, the car's going to start up and you're not going to have to deal with any issues there. Not to mention too, keeping it topped off is going to extend the life of the battery, as opposed to, you know, depleting it, and then charging it, you know, and going back and forth like that, you know, will reduce the life of the battery. So charge line kit is just one of those things that, you know, keeps life simple and everything operating the way it should. The way it's going to work is the power is going to come out of your motorhome 7-way. And if you have a late model one, almost every single one that I've seen is set up for that. But you will need 12 volts at that outlet on the back of your motorhome. But whenever you're flat towing it, power is going to come in through here, through this circuit breaker, which, you know, if there's any issues or shorts, you know, it'll trip the breaker and won't hurt anything. And then send power up directly to your battery terminal, and that's how it's going to, you know, keep it charged up. With that in mind, a lot of people wonder if this could affect your motorhome's batteries, and the answer is no. The motorhome has its own charging system using the alternator. It's generating more than enough to keep those batteries charged and send a little bit back here. So nothing to worry about as far as that goes. Other than that though, this is one of those deals that's a no-brainer. You know, really no reason not to use it. It's economical and can potentially save you a lot of trouble in the long run. As far as getting it installed, really simple. It's one wire in that breaker, that circuit breaker, and not, you know, really shouldn't give you any issues there, especially if you're doing it at the same time you're doing your other components, like your tow bar wiring and things like that. While you're already in here, one extra wire to run. But if you'd like to see how it's done, feel free to hang around. We'll go ahead and hook it up together now. To get our charge line hooked up, what we need to do is strip back the insulation on our wire, about like that. Give that wire a twist. Then we need to connect it into the back of our connector plug here. Now, depending on what type of connector plug you have, that's going to dictate where you need to plug the wire in. The majority of them that I've seen, you'll use the center pin. In our case, we have a Demco connector plug, and theirs is a little bit different. In this case, we're going to use the S pin, which is this one here. So you back the set screw out, place that wire in, and then just tighten it down. And when you have all these wires hooked up, you can put some dielectric grease as a sealer to keep this protected against corrosion. I like to wait till the very end once I have everything hooked up and working to do that. That way, if we have any issues, we don't have a big mess to work with in here. With everything hooked up now, I'm going to put our dust cover over this like that, and then I'm just going to mount everything up. Now we can get our wiring routed, and we're going to run it up into the engine compartment. So the wires come out of the back of our connector plug and kind of just loop around. All right. and just follows along through here to where they're going to go kind of up into the engine compartment behind our headlight. Our charge line wires come right up into here, and then what I've done is mounted up our circuit breaker, which is this part here. Really straightforward, just secure it down with 2 self-tapping screws. Closer to the battery, the better, so this is a pretty ideal spot, and there's really not a whole lot of other places to go with it, honestly. But the wire that's running up here from our 6-way is this one here. You're going to crimp on a small ring terminal, put it over the gold-colored post, and then tighten that nut down using a 3/8 socket. And you're going to have, you know, a foot or 2 leftover wire from cutting this one to length. On that piece of the wire on one end, you crimp on another small ring terminal, put it over the silver colored post and tighten it down. And then that is actually going to run over to our positive battery terminal. So for this end, strip that back. This end here, you're going to take the larger terminal. All right, and then slide that over. And crimp it down. And this is going to get connected to the positive battery post. So we have a few options. We could remove this nut, which I'd rather not do because of this deal here. I think I'm just going to connect it to that nut right there. So we might have to do something a little different. Take a 10mm and loosen this up, and sometimes these will come completely off. I don't think this one will. If it does, great, but not planning on it, and you'll know it'll kind of just stop. Yeah, so it's not going to want to come completely off. That's fine. We can take our ring terminal and cut an opening in it, and I like to kind of make it a little bit smaller here. Something like that. And then we can just slide this underneath that nut and just tighten it back down. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster towed vehicle battery charge line kit on our 2014 Chevrolet Sonic.